I really don't think I would have the food freedom and the mindset around food that I have today had I not done that. So as you guys know by now, I had disordered eating for many, many years. If you wanted me to put a label on it, then I had anorexia, bulimia, I had binge eating disorder, and I had orthorexia, all spanning over, at different points, all spanning over 10 years. And I never thought that, and I really didn't think that I was capable of being a normal eater, whatever that means. I genuinely believed I would always be obsessed with food, that I'd have to somehow control my weight and my food, and that every day would continue to be a battle over control for my food. Today, I'm going to talk about another significant step for lack of a better term, that had such an unbelievably profound impact on the way that I thought about food and interacted with food. And from what I've seen, it's not talked about all that much. So if we think that how we eat or how we want to eat comes down to hunger, satiety, and cravings, essentially, then I think we'd be totally forgiven. I know that that's what I thought. In reality, though, how we eat or how we want to eat is also a manifestation of what food means to us. And this is why we come up short, and I've done this, I don't know, maybe you've tried it as well. This is why we come up short, that when we're trying to get a healthy relationship with food, we just focus on hunger and satiety and cravings, or we try and model the eating patterns of someone that has food freedom, or even trying to get food freedom by going on like a diet plan, even if it's the healthiest yet most flexible diet plan in the world. That's why that doesn't actually heal our relationship with food. So I'm going to share with you now what I sometimes consider to be like a missing link in recovery, something which on the surface seems to have nothing at all to do with food, and yet when addressed, it can have one of the most significant impacts in finally obtaining the mindset of someone that is free with food, or a normal eater, or has a healthy relationship with food, however it is that you want to put it. Okay, so if we have disordered eating of any kind, then we are using food either through restricting or eating or binge eating or all of the above in some way to meet fundamental needs, whether we realize it or not. And often we don't realize it. I know that I didn't. And until we get those needs met in a very real and kind of appropriate and effective way, it's going to be very difficult for us to become a normal eater, because food means something more to us. So without the use of food, let's take that off the table for a second. Without, restricting it or controlling it or eating it or binging on it, I'd like you to rate the following out of 10 for me, with 0 being I don't have this at all, and 10 being I'm bursting in fulfillment in this area. First, do you have fun in life, joy, outside the use of food, whether controlling it, restricting it, dieting, eating it? How much out of 10? How confident and capable do you feel expressing your feelings to others, communicating, and being assertive? 0 is not at all, 10 is incredibly confident. Do you feel heard and understood? Do you feel like you get adequate rest? Or do you feel stressed and tired a lot of the time? Out of 10, how much? How much sensual pleasure do you have? People always think I'm talking about sex when I say that, which is a part of it, but it also means, getting a massage, having a bath, watching a beautiful sunset, a hug, the smell of good coffee, anything that puts a smile on your face, to do with the 5 senses, which of course food and eating is a part of, but let's just park the eating for a second and think, how much sensual pleasure do you have outside of food out of 10? Do you feel accepted and a sense of belonging? How much out of 10? How intellectually stimulated do you feel? Getting to use your brain, being creative with ideas. How creatively stimulated do you feel? Do you get to use your imagination a lot? Do you have comfort and warmth in your life? Spiritual and physical warmth and emotional warmth. And do you feel cared for and loved? Editing Rach here, I missed you off, sorry. Do you have a sense of self? A sense of an identity about who you are out of 10 without the use of food or controlling it? And do you have a sense of achievement in life? Goals, drive, a purpose, a sense of purpose outside of the use of food? So I wager, from what I know for myself, from what I've seen in clients, from what I've read, that most of us, the vast majority of us that have disordered eating, score low on at least one of these, if not many of these. I know that I certainly did. Now, I'm not saying if you do score low in any of these outside the use of food that you're definitely using food in some way, whether restricting it or eating it, etc., to meet this need. Absolutely not. I can't make that judgment. However, what I'm saying is ask yourself the question. Even, and I spoke about this before, go back through your timeline of kind of your relationship with food, right from childhood, and have a look at when things changed, like plot it out even. I did it. It was remarkably helpful. Have a look at how things evolved and changed, and then ask yourself what else was going on at this time, what needs weren't being met. Look for patterns and correlations. Have a look to see if you did in fact start using food to meet some of these needs or to handle the discomfort of not having these needs met. Figuring out how we use food in one way or another to meet needs is so important, because not only does doing so pose a very strong barrier into gaining food freedom, because food means more to us, it holds far more meaning, and we use it in other ways, in different ways, but food also can't meet these needs, not properly, and doing this can often just leave us, well, at least I know it did for me, feeling quite unsatisfied in life. Maybe you can't even put your finger on it. I know that I couldn't. So I had a client a few months back who I asked, give me a list of all the ways that you have fun in your life, and every single one of them involved the use of food. Cooking, going out for food, going out for coffee and cake, eating chocolate whilst watching a movie, going to the cinema and getting pick and mix and popcorn. I asked her to really try and have a think about all the ways that she thinks that she could have fun or does have fun outside of the use of food, and she found this really, really hard. In fact, she couldn't think of any. But she did find the thrill of dieting and the thrill of binge eating really fun. So in that case, creating and building a sense of fun and joy and enjoyment in life outside of the use of food became one of our top priorities very quickly. And in doing so, we could start to change what food means to her. So for me, my personal experience with this started when I did the timeline on myself, looking at my relationship with food and how that progressed from childhood. And it became pretty obvious to me very quickly that my relationship with food changed when I got moved to another country at about the age of 7. I didn't speak the language and I had no friends. And I started to depend on food. I had no idea that this is what was happening at the time as a child. But then I started sneaking food. I started stealing chocolate. I started raiding the cupboards for things because it made me feel good. Again, I was blissfully unaware that this was what was happening. I then struggled. I then moved a lot throughout childhood and my teenage years. And for that reason, and because I had issues with shyness and insecurity, I had issues with communicating because of this, I had issues with being assertive, I had issues with expressing feelings, and I just lacked that deep connection with my peers. And it never crossed my mind that these two things were related. It just wasn't even on my radar. I only started to notice this when I did the timeline on myself. So what was once eating and using food to cope with the lack of bonding that I had and deep relationships with people and a sense of belonging, then morphed into me using restriction and trying to get thinner and lose weight to essentially get people to like me more. In my mind, I'd be more accepted, I'd be more popular, I'd have more superficial relationships. As I reflected on this as I got older, and this only happened a few years back, I realized this is something, even if it seems unrelated to food, that I wanted to do something about. So I went to counseling, I built on my communication skills, setting boundaries, assertiveness, being vulnerable, taking my guard down, letting people see inside of me, taking down the kind of fake exterior that I'd so expertly created over years. And I made friends that I bonded with and that I love and that love me. The way that I needed to use food or felt like I needed to use food changed, and it didn't feel like a direct impact. It was just something that sort of happened in the background. I really don't think, and obviously I did other things as well, but I really don't think I would have the food freedom and the mindset around food that I have today had I not done that. Our disordered eating minds like us to think that it's all about weight and shape and food, and that's a part of it, but there's more going on there under the surface. All right, thank you so much for watching, guys. Any comments, leave them below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.